So I'm going to do a what sold video, but it's a little different from other what sold videos. I'm not just going to flip through and show you my recent sales. Well, okay, I kind of am, but each sale that I have selected to put into this presentation is going to be for a reason. So I'm going to go through each one and I'm going to let you know how much I paid for the item. It's going to say how much I sold it for and have a picture of it. And I'm going to tell you where I got it from. And I'm going to tell you why I got it. There are a lot of good tips, especially for new resellers. So I hope you enjoy this little slideshow I've created for you guys. We're going to start out with a banger of a brand, Jinko. If you are not my age, you may not know about this brand. So definitely familiarize yourself with it. They're jeans, hoodies, shirts, hats, anything with JNCO is going to do great. I got this at the Goodwill for $4.75. This Build-A-Bear pink frog, he doesn't really look like a frog to me. Anyway, I got him from the bins, and the reason I'm showing this one is because some Build-A-Bear plush can go for really good money, like super good money. This one did okay. I'm definitely glad I picked it up and sold it. It was a plush. It probably cost me like less than 50 cents at the bins. So definitely look up the Build-A-Bear plush. So I got this from the bins and I picked it up because it was Patagonia. Obviously, it's just a little toddler hat, but I knew it would still sell and be worth it because I only paid cents for it and still sold it for $16. I picked this up at my local Goodwill for about $6.25. So it was 100% leather, it was an extra large, and it was in great condition. All of those things factored together. Even though it was Roundtree in York, I definitely picked it up, and as you can see, it sold great, and it actually sold within about 2 days. So usually I'm flipping shoes over and boots to try to find the brand on the other side, on the bottom of the shoe, but this one didn't have it like that. So I unzipped it and I found on the inside of the shoe where it said Acme, and I was like, I've never heard of that brand, but I loved the floral embroidery on the upper part of the boot, and so I looked it up and realized that they sell really, really well. So as you can see, this person paid good money for this. Always look up those boots, especially the unique ones. So the purpose of putting this one in here is to let you guys know to follow the trends. So we've all been hearing about Judy Blue and how well those are selling lately. So I found a stack of like 4 of these at a Goodwill for $3.75 a piece, and I definitely picked those up. So they sold on varying prices. This one was like $25-ish, but off of $4, that's great. And they all 4 sold really quickly as soon as spring came around the corner. All right, so I sold these Athleta leggings. They're a size 1X. Now, that's the key here. They're a size 1X. If these were a size small or an extra small, I would not have picked them up because they probably wouldn't have sold. I can't get Athleta to move unless it's a bigger size. So, always factor in the size and how some of the larger sizes in certain brands will sell fairly well. Okay, next up are 2 purses that I wanted to showcase. I actually did get these on camera back a few videos ago, I think. So if you want to go watch that, check it out. I got these. These were based on my 5 senses, right? So like I could smell the leather, I could feel it was leather. And so after that, all I had to do was look up the tag. But I was shocked when I did because I was not familiar with rough and tumble purses, which probably a lot of you guys aren't. So lesson here is if it looks good, it smells good, and it feels good, look up the tag. So I paid $6 for each of these, and they sold in less than a day. One sold in like just a few hours, and the other one finally sold the next day. So what a great, great, great sale these 2 were. So this next one is a plush from the bins that I grabbed, and I grabbed it because I knew I could put the word realistic in the title, and the realistic plush seemed to sell pretty quickly and fairly well. I mean, when somebody pays a total of $22 for a plush from the bins, that's a good sale. So on this one, we're going to talk about current clothing. So Cabia is a good brand altogether, but the more current the article of clothing was released. So like this one was released in 2023. That's very current. So it did pretty well, and it was a great spring piece. I was a little hesitant to pick it up because it was an extra small, but in the end, I was not sad at all to spend $4.25 and flip that around to what I did. So the Hey Dudes, I mean, they're not all the rage anymore, and they don't sell like they used to, but if you could still find them in good sizes and in excellent condition, they will still sell, as you can see. You don't want to go paying up on a pair of shoes like these, but if you can get them for a decent price, then they're definitely still worth selling. This is the 4th pair that I have actually sold within the past few months. Don't judge a book by its cover. I guess that would be my advice for you with some things that you find. I initially saw these and was like, oh, I would never wear these, but they're by Vionic, which is like a comfort brand, and although these do not look very comfortable to me. Anyway, back on topic, I looked them up, and wow, I'm glad I did. They actually sold really well, and they sold within like, I think it was 3 days. I paid $6.50, so great sale. Always look things up, even if you particularly don't think they're the cutest thing in the world. Okay, this is kind of a funny one. I picked this up at the bins. So, of course, I didn't pay much for it, and it looked old. That's honestly why I picked it up. It looked old, and it had a signature on the bottom of it, like a stamp. So I brought it home. I looked it up. I did so much research, and I still couldn't figure out what I needed to. I put in as much information as I could in the title that would possibly lead to a sale. And as you can see, I even threw in a question mark next to the word that I'm not even going to try to say. That was like the maker, the brand of it. Anyway, this thing was dusty as anything. And I let the buyer know that they were going to have to clean it themselves. It sold great. It was definitely worth the buy. So incoming, another tip. Don't always skip the kids stuff. I've actually found some really great kids things like the Oshkosh overalls. These are just a pair of John Deere overalls for toddlers, and I picked them up because they were on the dollar rack, and they sold within like, I think it was 2 days. And no, I didn't make a ton of money, but they sold quick. So, and somebody got their kid some really cute overalls. Do you know that I almost passed these up? They were sitting on the shelf, and they were a size 7 Converse. You don't have much luck with like other Converse, and I just did not know that the knee-high Converse could sell for an amazing amount of money until after the fact. Actually, a friend of mine that's a reseller told me, oh my gosh, those can sell really well. So I am really glad that I picked them up. They were in really good condition. I did have to have them authenticated through eBay, which was fine. They sold within about 2 months, and I paid $8 for them. So that was a really good sale. And heads up, that knee-high Converse, definitely don't pass those things up. So I remember the day that I picked this up very specifically because I was at the bins, and oh my gosh, my bins gets crazy, y'all, especially when the clothing stuff comes out. So everybody had just picked through all the clothing. I was getting like the Old Navy and just the cruddy brands. So I was like, okay, I'm going to take a look at the linens. And I found 2 Vera Bradley blankets, but this one in particular I looked up, and you should always look up the patterns for Vera Bradley because some of them are highly sought after and hard to find. So this happened to be one of them. I mean, this was a pre-owned plush blanket that sold for this amount from the bins. There are several lessons and tips that I can say about this pickup. So I picked up the St. John piece. It was my first St. John piece ever. So I kind of just impulsively grabbed it and didn't really check over the sweater. And so that came back to stab me in the butt because it had 2 holes in the sleeve. So I was going to return it, but I'd already taken the tag off. So don't always take your tags off so quickly either. Anyway, even with flaws, it sold for $30. I paid $4.75 for it. I made a profit. I could have made way more if it wouldn't have had the 2 holes in it. But people will patch those holes. And I've also seen that even just the buttons on those things will sell. So take all of the tips that you want from that. But I'm disappointed, but not at the same time, I guess. So when you go to the Goodwill or whatever store you go to, how often do you skip over looking at the tank tops, right? Because they're overpriced. You're probably just going to wait for them to go down to the clearance section. And don't always do that, because I flipped through the tank tops and this is probably about the 3rd time I found something really good over there. So this one was a Disney Park Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. You could only get it from the parks themselves, the Disney parks. And as you can see, I spent $2.25 and it sold for a really great price. So check the places sometimes that you would typically not check, because you never know what you might find. This was a really fun one. So I had picked this up at Goodwill probably years ago and had it in my own DVD collection. Well, one day I woke up and I was looking through Facebook, and on one of the reseller groups I was on, somebody had said that all of a sudden the price of these shot up for whatever reason. So what did I do? I, of course, grabbed it out of my collection and threw it onto eBay, and it sold within a day for much more than it typically would have. So yeah, keep up with stuff like that. Join some reseller groups. Now, we all know if we see a pair of Nike Jordans, you're going to pick it up and you're going to make some money off of them. But what other Nike shoes do well on eBay? Well, you're going to have to look them up as you go to figure that out and learn. I almost didn't look this pair up. It was a size 10.5 in women's, and they were in like new condition. So I grabbed them, took a chance, and they sold great. So sometimes when you're deciding whether or not to buy something to sell, what you want to do is factor stack. You want to see if there are enough reasons to buy the item. So with this particular shirt, it was a size extra large. It was a good brand, which is the Rails brand, and it was made out of silk and it had a good design. With all of those together, I figured it would probably sell fairly well, and it ended up selling in like a day or 2. So great pickup there. All right, so where there is one, there could be more. When you're outsourcing, if you find one good brand, definitely look around to see if there are more. Such as in this case, I actually found 3 or 4 pair of the cool pants, which sell great, in one spot. I was so excited. So now we're going to talk about new with tag items. If you find something that's new with tags, you definitely always want to look it up, because it's going to automatically up the value of it if it's new, obviously. Now, with this particular brand, Tommy Bahama, this was a silk shirt, the Hawaiian type of button-up shirts, especially with the really cool designs, do really well. So that was a great pickup, and even better that it was brand new with tags. All right, so don't always listen to the rumors. Right after I picked up these Rothy's and was excited because it was my first pair I ever found, I heard all these rumors on YouTube and stuff that Rothy's were not selling anymore. And although they weren't selling for what they used to, I think if they're in good shape and you can prove that they're authentic, you still have a shot at selling them. These actually sold for my full price, and I was happy with the sale. So camo stuff and hunting stuff, that always sells really well. I just recently started picking up items like that, though. I figured out that the pattern on this specific shirt, which was also vintage, was I think it was a duck camo pattern. So I included that in the title and finally ended up just taking an offer for $28. I spent $4.25 on it. So it was a good pickup and it sold rather quickly. This was another fun sale, and actually an even more fun find. So, you would expect that you would have to pay up for this brand, right? Well, I actually went to my Miracle Hill. They had just put out some shoes, and I saw these sandals and was like, oh my gosh, they look like they say Louis Vuitton on them. And I was like, there's no way. They weren't marked up, y'all. They were $5. I guess the store either missed it completely or thought they were fake. Turns out they were not fake. Now, these took a while to sell, and I'm sure I could have got more money from them, but I actually had already sold them one time, and they were returned to me, and I was really just kind of ready to let them go. So I still got for what I think for a sandal was a good price on them. They had a couple of scuffs on them. But anyway, don't always just assume that your store is going to catch every expensive item, because sometimes they don't. So don't underestimate the power of selling lingerie, bras, stuff like that, because some of it actually does pretty well. I paid just cents for this bra at the bins, and it's not going to give me a ton of money, but it was still worth selling, or at least in my opinion it was. So don't skip that stuff over. It can make you some money. Vuori has definitely become a brand to sell, right? These actually had a spot on the back where the Velcro was kind of coming apart from the pocket. And since it was Vuori, that did not seem to matter. So don't always throw back the damaged stuff if you know it's a brand that's selling really well at the moment. So I still got a really good price on these shorts that I only spent $3.75 for. I obviously disclosed the damage in the title and then further in the description on my eBay listing. Okay, so I got these trail running shoes based on something that you definitely need to keep track of if you want to sell things quickly and not hold on to them for a long time, and that's the sell-through rate. So the sell-through rate on these particular pair of shoes was really high. Now, there's like a mathematical way to find out the sell-through rate. We're not going to get into that on this video. You can go look it up on YouTube. But if the sell-through rate is high on something, it's definitely worth a grab. I sold these within a week of buying them, even though they weren't in the best of condition. Another tip, always pay attention to the colors that are trending. So when I got this and sold it, the color green, this kind of specific Kelly green, was a really popular color at the moment. So I found this Misuk piece, which also is a good brand anyway, and I sold it within I think about 2 weeks of buying it, and I got the whole set for $4.75. This is another example of looking up like a style code on a Nike shoe if you're just not sure if it's a good seller or not. Also, you don't always have to have the best condition of pre-owned shoes to sell. These still sold great, even though they had some scratches and scuffs on them, and they sold really fast. They actually sold twice. First person didn't pay, haha, as usual on eBay. Second person did, and they actually paid me more than the first person. So all in all, I was super happy. Okay, so I didn't make a lot on this t-shirt, and I didn't expect to, but I bought it for $1, and the reason I bought it was because it had a tie-dye pattern. I love the colors, and mainly because it had a tiger on it. Is that a tiger? Yeah, that's a tiger. Anyway, if it has any sort of wildlife or animals on it, it tends to do fairly well. Guess what? If I would have found this same piece 2 weeks prior to when I did, I would not have picked it up. This was sitting in the long sleeve men's section of my Goodwill for $4.75. And I had actually just seen a video where somebody was talking about these on YouTube and said that they were a bolo. A bolo is something that you want to be on the lookout for because it either sells for a lot of money or it sells quickly, for whatever reason. So definitely keep an eye on some of those YouTube channels, even like mine, where you can learn stuff like this and then you know to pick it up and not skip it over. Here comes another plush. So this is a plush brand called Jellycat, and every time I hear the Jellycat, I think of Smelly Cat off of Friends, and I'm not even going to start singing that for you guys, I promise, even though I totally could right now. So anyway, some Jellycat plush sell really, really well. This was Rolby, or however you say that, the sheep, and he he had the tag still on him, but there was like some stuff in like his fuzz, or else I probably could have sold it more for around $50. So take a look at the solds on eBay for Jellycat plush and start from the highest and work your way down. You'll see that some of those are really, really, really good pickups. My all-time favorite clothing find is a good old vintage shirt. Now, I found some much better vintage shirts than this, but this was just a more recent one to give you guys an idea. This is the 1996 Atlanta Olympics. There is actually a big stain on the back of this, and it's still sold for $28. So, keep an eye out for those vintage shirts. They can really bring you in some great money. All right, y'all, size matters. So, There are a lot of times that I can get more money for things simply because of the size. And in particular, these were a size medium, but you see the T in there that stands for tall. So if you find like a tall in something, you could probably boost it up a few bucks and expect to get more money for it. So look for that type of stuff out there. Okay, so organic-based brands, that type of stuff's becoming more and more popular as the years go by. So definitely keep in your head what brands to look for when it comes to that and which ones resell well. This particular one is called A Piece Apart. I sold this jumpsuit. I could have gotten more for it, but I let it go on a $50 offer. I sold 2 shirts by A Piece Apart for $40 each. So yeah, just keep an eye on that type of stuff. I actually knew nothing about this brand before buying it and looking into it a little further. I actually got 2 other sweaters by St. Croix also, and why I didn't pass it up was because it was art. You see down in the description, it says wearable art. A lot of people will buy that, and this sweater happened to be like a limited edition, so it sold really well to actually a principal of a school. So he really liked wearing these like snazzy sweaters and everything. He actually bought my other 2 from me also, but yeah, they sold for great money. Definitely keep an eye out for things that have really cool pictures or artwork on them. This sweater I only spent $4.75 for at the Goodwill. This is Roly Poly Oly, the robot plush. Does anybody remember that? I remember it from my children watching this show. So yeah, if you can find something that's like from an old Nick Jr. show like Blue's Clues or a Disney show and it's not on anymore, a lot of this stuff can be very nostalgic. Or if somebody's child is currently watching the show and they want to buy a plush or a toy or something like that and they can't find it, then they go to eBay. So keep an eye out for this stuff, and it's definitely a good pickup. I spent a whopping 50 cents on this toy. Now, I had this beautiful gown in my store for a long while, probably about 4 to 5 months, but finally somebody bought it and it was worth it. It was easy to store because it was small, and stuff like this, some of the brands that are in lingerie and gowns, they sell great. So you might have to wait a while, but they'll sell. I spent $2.75 on this at the Goodwill. I guess the last little tip I'm going to give on this what sold video is the bins versus the regular stores. Now, if you've never been to the bins, maybe find one close to you and try to go because you're going to pay per pound. That's what I did on this purse, and at my bins, 3 days out of the week, they do half off. So it's half off $1.98 per pound, which is awesome. So whereas I wouldn't have picked this up at a regular store, I definitely picked it up at the bins and paid a lot less and still sold it for an amount that I was happy with. All right, one more just for good luck. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and hearing some of the explanations behind why I chose to pick something, buy it, and try to sell it on eBay. I really want to know what was your favorite sale or your best sale, or maybe just something along those lines that you've had recently. Let me know down in the comments, and if you like this style of video, I'm certainly going to do another one in the future. See you guys later.